Good morning, Year 3. This is where we finished yesterday, where Trevor and Tina, they're trying to train the dog Streaker, and they saw Charlie Smug with a trolley. And he's acting very suspicious. Right, chapter 6. Maybe he's been shopping, I said. Don't be stupid, Trevor. He lives up your road. He's hardly likely to go shopping and then drag it all the way across the field. Well, what do you think he's doing then? I asked. Tina checked the direction in which Charlie was heading. Her voice took on an excited edge. He's going to the bath. He's heading straight for the tin bath. Look, he's stopped. What's he doing? Charlie leaned over the trolley, puffing slightly. Yanking it across the field must have been hard work. Now that he had stopped moving about, I could see that it wasn't a tub in the trolley, but a large bucket with a snap-on lid. Charlie had another good look round, pulled the lid off and carefully lifted out the bucket. He balanced it on the side of the bath. Even Tina could see all this, but she couldn't tell what was in the bucket. What's he doing? She repeated impatiently. Charlie made one last furtive search of the area and then slowly tipped the bucket forward over the water. Out slopped something very dark green, something glistening with slime. Something that looked like the killer sludge from Planet Squirk. Why is Charlie holding his nose? Cried Tina, and I let her have the binoculars. She was in time to see the last dregs of muck from the bottom of the bucket being emptied into the rusty bath. I don't believe it, she cried. The dirty, rotten cheat. He's putting even more revolting stuff in there. You know what this means, don't you? Yes, I said. We're going to get very, very dirty when we get in the bath. Tina wasn't listening. He can't do things like that. It's cheating. This means war. I had to admire Tina. I mean, declaring war on Charlie Smug was a bit like Iceland deciding to attack America. What shall we do first? I asked. Send in our non-existent tanks or blast him to pieces with our non-existent missiles? Tina coloured slightly. Well, it's not fair, she grumbled. And if there is anything we can do about it, then we're going to do it. Okay, I agreed. If there is anything we can do about it, we'll do it. And I kept my fingers crossed in the hope that we wouldn't have to do anything at all. Call me a coward, call me a wimp if you like, but having to fight with King Smoggy Kong was not my idea of a good time. Charlie Smug and his dastardly deed was suddenly forgotten when I caught sight of Streaker in the distance and remembered my big plan. It was time to put it into action, so I handed Tina the binoculars, grabbed the second mobile phone and switched it on. My right ear was instantly filled with a swishing, crackling noise, which was Streaker careering through the long grass. Calling Streaker, return to base, I repeat. Return to base. Tina began to splutter. She's a dog, Trev, not a fighter plane. Want to bet? Come in, Streaker. I can see her, cried Tina, peering through the binoculars. At the far end of the trees, there. We're over here, I shouted into the phone. Come on, it's time to go home. Return to base. She's coming back, said Tina excitedly. My mobile was filled with the sound of pounding paws and grass and bushes banging against the dog and the phone. Hang on, Tina gave a dismayed cry. Charlie's Alsatians are after her. Now what do we do? Sure enough, the 3 Alsatians were hot on Streaker's tail. I scrambled down the tree at breakneck speed, somehow managing to fall the last bit and land in some nettles. I struggled painfully to my feet and bam! I was immediately knocked flying by Streaker as she went charging past, panting furiously and heading for the road. Covered in a second set of nettle stings, I dragged myself upright once again and bam, bam, bam. The first Alsatian spun me round like an egg whisk. The second knocked me straight back into the nettles, and the third simply pounded across my chest as if some kind of very useful bridge had magically appeared in front of it. The Alsatians carried on the chase, barking away merrily and obviously thinking that the whole business had been set up for their entertainment. Meanwhile, I sat in the only clump of nettles in the world that needed a set of traffic lights. Tina dragged me out and we hurried down the road just in time to see Streaker go whizzing into somebody's front garden, closely followed by 3 slavering Alsatians. Poor Streaker was trapped. Chapter 7. By the time we reached the house, Streaker was crouching down on the front doorstep. Charlie's Alsatians were inching towards her, cheerfully showing great ranks of glittering teeth. As far as I could see, there was no escape. At that moment, a ginger cat sauntered round the side of the house. Now, you know as well as I do that dogs chase cats, but this cat was different. A bit like mine, year 3. It was a monster. It hardly even looked like a cat. It was more like a ginger panther. As soon as it saw the 3 Alsatians, all its fur stood on end so that it looked like an inflatable ginger panther. Its claws stuck out. It began to screech like some nightmare creature from a horror film and hurled itself at Charlie's dogs. In 2 seconds flat, the dogs had vanished, tails between their legs. Tina and I grinned at each other. Even Streaker looked pleased until the nightmare turned on her. Before we could do a thing, the cat had flung itself at Streaker. For a brief moment, it looked as if she was going to get shredded by the Moggy from hell. But Streaker had quite a different idea up her sleeve. Not that dogs have sleeves, but I'm sure you know what I mean. If Streaker had got a sleeve, then that's where she would have kept her idea. I'll show you the cat. Streaker turned, and this was quite astonishing really, made a single flying leap from the front doorstep and straight through an open window. The cat plunged after her. In no time at all, a fight had broken out inside. I started praying silently, please don't let anything happen to Dad's phone. Tina peered desperately through the window while I banged on the front door. What's happening? I shouted, still thumping away with my fists and getting no answer. I don't know. I saw something large fly through the air. It may have been the cat, but I think it was your dad's mobile phone being a bit too mobile. That was it. I had to do something. Pushing Tina away, I saw Streaker and the cat go skidding out of the room. I started clambering through the window. I've got to get her. Supposing somebody comes, Tina asked anxiously. They're all out. I've got to get Dad's phone back before it's completely smashed. Tina only hesitated a fraction longer. I'm coming too, she said, and hopped in behind me. There was quite a few tufts of fur lying around on the carpet, some black and some ginger. I found a bit of plastic and my heart dive-bombed into my boots and hid there, squealing with terror. There's another bit over here, Tina called out helpfully, picking up a large but useless lump of ex-mobile phone. At least it wasn't the cat, she added. To find Streaker, all we had to do was follow the noise. The 2 animals seemed to have started round 3 upstairs. It was a bit spooky creeping around somebody else's house, but I hardly had time to think about that. This was an emergency. If Dad's phone was beyond repair, then I was going to end up in a hospital. Tina and I had just reached the top landing when a door opened as if by magic and this woman appeared, wrapped in a towel, her face smeared all over with thick white paste and her head smothered in curlers. She looked so weird that I just stood there and screamed. So did she, and she could scream much louder than me. Even Streaker and the cat stopped to see what all the fuss was about. The woman grabbed the first thing that came to hand, which happened to be a rather large and menacing laundry basket. And came straight at us, yelling like a red Indian on a scalping mission. I was terrified, and so was Tina. She yanked open the nearest door, dashed inside, pulled me into the room with her, and slammed it shut behind us. It took me 1 second to realise that Tina had made a big mistake. We weren't in a room at all. We were locked in a broom cupboard. It was dark. The handle was on the outside, and there was no way out. I sank to the floor and buried my head in my hands. Well done, Tina, I murmured. Nice one. It seemed like ages before we were released. I heard voices outside and the door was opened. I stumbled out, eyes blinking against the bright daylight, and walked straight into the outstretched arms of a policeman. Well, 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 smirked Sergeant Smug. I used to think policemen only said well, well, well in bad films. Maybe this was a bad film. It certainly felt like it to me. We've caught 2 petty criminals, red-handed, breaking and entering private property with intent to steal. That's a jail sentence of 5 years or so. This Listen, I began. It's all a mistake. My dog came. Your dog? Sergeant Smug roared with laughter and turned to the lady. This is what he said last time. He always blames it on his dog. There wasn't any dog, said the woman. Just these two, on my landing. But there was, Tina insisted, and she tried to explain. The sergeant wouldn't have any of it, and we were carted off to a police station where they made a great show of taking our fingerprints and all our details before they were telephoned home. Dad came to fetch us. He wasn't very pleased. In fact, he was managing a pretty good imitation of an erupting volcano on two legs. This was because Streaker had finally returned home with half a mobile phone still strapped to her collar. Let me show you the photo of the policeman. The woman decided not to press charges against us after all, probably because she could see that having to go home with Dad was going to be a far worse sentence than going to jail. I would have been a lot safer in jail, I reckon. The only good thing was that when Dad discovered the Smugs Alsatians had been involved, he had a real go. There he is, erupting volcano. He had a real go at the sergeant. Dad didn't like the Smugs dogs any more than I did. So there you are. I had now ended up at the police station twice in 1 week. I still had to walk Streaker, and I now owed Dad billions of pounds for his broken mobile. Isn't life wonderful?